This video is a bit different. It's just going to be a chat over some gameplay. You see, I opened up YouTube the other day, maybe a month ago, maybe more, and I was surprised to see that I'd hit a big milestone, 10 years since my first upload. I knew I'd been doing this for a while, but that really caught me off guard. After thinking it over, I realised I couldn't just ignore something like this, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do exactly. But I figured the least I could do was make a video talking about why I've kept this up for so long. And let's be honest, if I was trying to make a living from this, or build a brand, this channel would have been probably seen as a failure by most of YouTube's metrics. But luckily, that's never what it's been about for me. The truth is, this has been a really positive experience for me, and I've met some genuinely great people. Some I've had a chance to meet in person, and others I still hope to. One of the major highlights was being part of the 24-hour live stream in Scotland to support the Glasgow Children's Hospital. That was organised by Gordon over at Gib84 Gaming. And by the way, just to let you know, the stream is coming up again on November 1st, so please go and support it if you can. Last year's donation record needs to be broken. He'll be joined by an amazing group of people as well, so you know they're going to have a blast. Honestly though, I am really humbled by how many of you have subscribed and just even interacted with my videos over the years. Yes, this is a small channel, but over 1,000 people? That's not a small number. Seeing all of you in one room would probably terrify me because I'm actually a pretty shy guy. But the thought of it really puts it into perspective. I had originally planned to post a bit of a Q&A and ask for some questions, but I wasn't sure how that would go. So instead I just pulled together a few thoughts about why I'm still doing this, and just the state of YouTube in general. And hey, if it comes off a bit cynical or gloomy at times, give me a virtual slap. It's not meant to come across that way. So anyway, it's time to get out of my comfort zone and talk about something I hate. Myself. Before I started my channel, I used to watch a fair bit of gaming content on YouTube. Most of what I saw was coming from American creators, and as someone in the PAL region, I thought there might be some interest in a more British perspective. Originally I just wanted to document my journey collecting the Xbox 360 library. At the time there weren't too many people giving the system much attention. I started with collections and pickups videos, hoping to highlight some of the lesser known games that people might have missed. Over time I began to feature other systems too, as I was never just an Xbox 360 collector, even though that was the channel's original focus. From there it just became about making whatever I wanted as long as I enjoyed it and it was about gaming. Whether it be deep dives into console libraries, individual game reviews, joining community challenges, or just setting personal ones. Right now, for example, I'm working on the 52 Platinum Challenge, and I previously documented my final 15,000 gamer score on the way to hitting the 1 million. Some of my favourite challenges have been things like tackling games I've been called out on. But if I had to pinpoint the biggest reason I started a channel, it's this. I always dreamed of working in the games industry. I went to university to study 3D modelling and animation, but honestly, I wasn't that great at it. The software's moved on so much now that I'd need to start from scratch. And to be blunt, I'd have to relearn everything. I also once applied for a writing job at trueachievements.com, and I even got an interview. Meeting the people behind the site was great, but I royally buggered up that interview. I'm not good at selling myself, and for someone who can usually talk for hours about games, my mind just went blank. The truth is I'm actually incredibly shy and deal with quite a lot of anxiety. I hide it quite well most of the time, but it has stopped me doing a lot in life. The thing is that job would have meant a big pay cut and probably relocating, but the idea of turning something I loved into a career seemed worth it. It might sound silly, but I never wanted to work in games to make loads of money or anything. I just wanted to do something I'd enjoy. So I started this channel mainly to get my opinions out there. There was never any financial motivation. I just hoped that if I talked about games I loved, maybe someone out there would try one and enjoy it too. Even if just a handful of people find a new favourite game because of something I've said, then I think I've achieved what I set out to do. Another big reason for starting the channel was to push myself out of my comfort zone. In the beginning I stayed behind the camera and didn't really interact with anyone, but eventually I just thought, fuck it, let's get in front of the camera. What's the worst thing that could happen? I always knew I would be playing YouTube on hard mode though, since I've got to be the least charismatic or eloquent person to walk the earth, and the fact that I have a face for the radio and a voice for print. So I just figured no one would watch anyway, so why worry about it? Fast forward to today, and honestly my confidence has grown a lot thanks to the people I've met through doing this. Sorry to repeat myself, but it still blows my mind that over 1,000 people have hit the subscribe button on this weirdo's channel. To everyone who's had me on live streams, Discords, WhatsApp groups, or even just chatted in the comments, thank you. You've done more for me than you'll ever know. The strangest part though is I still don't really see myself as a YouTuber. I just see myself as some bellend with a camera and a lot of games. And I need to say, this has always been a hobbyist channel, and that's how I like it, and it's how it's going to stay. But with that said, where do I see the channel going? This is a tough question because I've never really had a set direction or goal or really tried to grow the channel in any serious way. I don't chase the algorithm, I just make what I feel like making at the time. As I said, this has always been a hobbyist channel and always will be. Even when I get into the longer videos which I've scripted and spent a decent amount of time editing, they're all done simply because I have a passion for the topic. That said, I do have a lot of video ideas that I'm slowly chipping away at. I'm not the kind of person who can stick to a strict schedule though. I have tried doing weekly videos in the past, usually just pickups videos based on what I'd found that week, but that was back when not everyone and their dog was combing charity shops for games, and when retro didn't cost a small fortune. You most likely won't ever catch me filming in public either. For one, I don't visit enough interesting places. Most are a real trek to get to, plus my gaming budget would be blown on travel before I even got there. But also I'd feel a bit weird just whipping out a camera in public. Anyone who has the guts to do it, hats off to you. I have though in the past thought about starting a separate channel for random stuff I enjoy outside of gaming, but honestly I barely have the time to manage this one, let alone a second. Some creators look forward to introducing features like channel memberships, but that's not really for me. I was tempted for a while for a laugh, just to set up memberships with pot noodle themed tier names, as part of a running joke that I judge all purchases by how many weeks I'd need to live off pot noodles to be able to afford them. I thought it'd be funny and not even mention it and see if anyone noticed, but now that I've said that, I suppose the joke's ruined. So yeah, there's no real focus. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and if you like that, thank you. Enough about me. If you're still here, let's switch things up and actually talk about some games on this, gaming channel. A lot of collectors seem to approach their game hunting in a very methodical way. Mine, not so much. My collection style has always felt pretty random by comparison. I am working towards a few full sets, a complete in-box N64 set, a full PS Vita set, and of course the entire worldwide Xbox 360 library. But I don't let these goals dictate what I buy. I'm not the type to sit down and just work through a checklist. I prefer to stumble across things naturally, whether that's spotting something in person or having a good deal pop up in one of my online feeds. I'd call myself more of an opportunist collector. If I see something that looks interesting or sparks my curiosity, regardless of the system, I'm probably going to grab it. I know this approach means I may never actually complete those full sets, but I'm okay with that. I buy games to play them, not just to tick them off a list. Even the random sports titles, I'll sometimes pop them in out of curiosity, or at least for achievements or trophies. The only subset I've actually completed is the limited rare PS4 collection. The company seems to have moved on to PS5 now, so I think I can tick that one off as finished. Unless they decide to surprise me with a few stragglers. I'm also working towards collecting all the PS4 horror releases, but again that's happening in the same casual, when it appears on my radar kind of way. There's way more PS4 horror games than you think there is as well. Way more. Again, this is another tough one to answer. Why does anyone collect anything? And why did I land on video games? I think games have always resonated with me. As a kid, I found talking to friends about games far more interesting than chatting about movies. With movies, you all kind of just watch the same thing. There's not much variation in how you experience it. But with games, everyone plays differently. Whether it's the choices they make, the routes they take, or how good or bad they are, each player's experience is unique. Hearing different perspectives make this hobby more exciting for me. Not only how people play is different, what they play is too. Growing up, this was even more apparent than it is today. We didn't have endless YouTube top 10 lists or Reddit threads pointing out hidden gems. People just picked up random games from the shop or rented them, and word of mouth did the rest. When a friend told me about a new game they'd found, it felt like discovering buried treasure. We'd get together and try it out or lend each other games. The simple joy of sharing and discovering made me want to dig deeper and explore what else was out there. Even now I love stumbling across a random game in the wild, taking it home, and trying to figure out why no one talks about it. Often it's because the game is shit, but like bad movies that are so bad they're entertaining, I get a similar kick out of bad games. Sure, I could just browse through a folder of ROMs and try random stuff, but that's not the same. There's something charming about holding the physical game, popping it into a console and just checking out the box art. Back when this was a cheap hobby and retro games were everywhere, I would have recommended going physical to everyone, but times have changed. So why do I still spend big on some of these games? I think part of it is the appeal of the unobtainable. It's like collecting rare trading cards, not to show off, but because owning that rare item makes your collection personal. Not everyone has it. There's always a story behind how you got it as well. For example, I once spent £750 on a PS4 game called Tamashii. I literally starved myself for a couple of months to afford it, which I will say I wouldn't recommend to anyone. This might sound extreme, but because of what I did to afford it, it became more than just another item on the shelf. It became a memory. If I were wealthy and could buy stuff like this all the time, it wouldn't feel the same. Was Tamashii worth the money? No, not really. It's a fun little puzzle platformer, definitely worth playing digitally. But the thrill of the chase and the story behind the physical copy, that's what makes collecting special to me. In the end, yeah, it's just buying stuff, but the ways I go about finding all this plastic tat makes me happy. I will say though, nothing still beats the feeling of finding something obscure in a tiny second-hand shop though. Ironically, YouTube. Yes, I know this is a YouTube video, and the irony isn't lost on me. While there are some fantastic creators and communities out there full of people genuinely passionate about collecting and helping each other reach their goals, there is also unfortunately a recurring pattern of people trying to cash in on the hobby without really caring about it. What do I mean? I'm talking about the folks that clearly don't know much about the games they showcase, they just regurgitate Wikipedia facts. Or the ones who buy expensive titles purely just for content, showing them off repeatedly without offering any real insight, literally just flashing the price tags. Or just flat out refusing to remove the prices they paid just to flex. Some even going on to say how much buying that single video game has earned them in ad revenue. And it's always the same handful of games being discussed. You end up in this weird echo chamber where you're told these are the must-have titles if you want to be considered a real collector. Don't own all the Pokemon or Zelda games? Are you even a gamer? That kind of thinking is just ridiculous. Take hidden gem videos as another example. It feels like the same titles are recycled again and again. I get that retro content is finite, but it's odd how we rarely see hidden gem videos focusing on newer systems. Considering how many games are released these days, way more than in the past, you'd think there'd be more to discover and talk about. Then there's the strange divide between modern and retro gamers. Why does that line even have to exist? You can have your preferences, sure, but to dismiss modern games, even ones inspired by retro classics, just because they're on a new console, that's nonsense. I get it though, certain games and topics get more clicks, and creators chasing the algorithm if they want to grow fast, covering these big name titles is the obvious route. But it's also why I personally gravitate towards smaller hobbyist channels. People like me who aren't chasing trends or using flashy editing, but who are genuinely buying the games to play them. And just to be clear, my critique of gaming YouTubers isn't aimed at anyone in particular. There are a handful of larger channels I really respect. You can tell they put in the effort with travelling, filming, editing, and most importantly their passion for gaming still shines through. So where am I trying to go with this? I guess just buy the games that look interesting to you. Don't be afraid to buy something just based off the cover. And certainly don't buy games because someone on the internet says you have to own it. None of this is me trying to get on my high horse. YouTube is all about you. Make whatever you want. This is just a personal opinion about the content I enjoy. I'm trying to make this not sound like I'm some salty little channel, but any critique will do that unfortunately. Also, don't get me started on listening to large gaming websites and their reviews, but I had a bit of a rant about this in my recent review, so I won't retread on that ground. Right, let's move off of this topic before it becomes controversial. A lot of gaming channels on YouTube treat their games rooms like a personality of its own, constantly documenting every little change. You've probably noticed though that mine isn't exactly curated. That's because this room was never meant to be my permanent game room. I do have another room in the house that I'd like to convert properly, and I've got loads of ideas of how I'd like to kit it out. The problem is the other room needs a lot of work, and I'm, shall we say, DIY challenged. Everything in the current setup, I'm talking the shelves, not the games, well actually, quite a lot of the games, were picked up cheap from charity shops. That's why the shelving's all mismatched colours, shapes and sizes. I cheap out on everything except the games. If a bookcase costs more than a tenner, it's not for me. But when I eventually move everything into the new space, I know I'll have to bite the bullet and actually spend some money. The budget won't be massive, and I'll probably need to hire people to do parts of it, but that's where anxiety kicks in. I'm not great at being an adult. Getting workers in is so out of my comfort zone. So I always think, I'll give it a go myself, but then I worry if I spend money and I mess something up, I will have just wasted it. I don't like to start something unless I know I can do it perfectly, and since I usually can't, I end up stuck in a bit of a stalemate and don't get anything done. What I should do is put a pause on buying games for a while and focus on saving up to get the room done properly. I'm not bad at saving, but right now I'm putting all my money aside for a lad's holiday next year to celebrate turning 40. Anyway, that's a bit off topic there. The point is I do plan to sort out a proper games room in the future. I just don't know how long it will take. I really need to pull my finger out though, because the current room is absolutely at capacity, and that's after moving a couple hundred games out into storage. I wouldn't say I've actively dropped any systems. If I see a game I want to play, I'll grab it no matter what console it's on. But I do think twice before picking up anything for the Wii. The controls just drive me nuts, so the game needs to be really worth it to make me bother. It's also one of the collections I've thinned out the most because it feels like a library full of pure shovelware. I know that's not entirely true, and some of the games are fantastic on the Wii, but I've got most of the good ones now, with only a small handful left to track down. The Switch is another system I tend not to collect much for physically. I see it as a weaker way to play most third-party games from that era, and I usually prefer to play the PS4 or Xbox versions instead. Which brings me on to something that really saddens me. I don't pick up many Xbox physical copies anymore. That's mostly because a lot of the games don't even get a disc release, and when they do, it's just often a digital key on the disc rather than the full game. This has pushed me more towards PlayStation versions, but even they can be tricky. You really have to check what's actually on the disc. Luckily, I mostly play indie games these days, and they almost always come fully on the disc. When it comes to grails, the one I still want is a 32x game. It's Primal Rage. I've mentioned it many times before. It's not exactly a great game, but in the past I've had some fun with it. So why do I want it so badly? Well, I had it as a kid, and it was the only 32x game I ever owned. I had no idea it was sought after until I started trying to buy back all the games I'd had back then. Finding out how rare it was, and that the PAL version can carry a 4-figure price tag, was quite the shock. The NTSC version is much easier to find though, and I can see myself settling for that eventually, but deep down I know it just won't be the same. When I look at other collectors' grails, I see a lot of people chasing arcade cabinets, promotional items, and all sorts of cool stuff. As much as I think this stuff looks great, it's just not for me. I like to think of my gaming collection as a library from which I can just pick something from and play. Nothing more. For me, it's always been about playing through the games, not chasing the little extras. But I can't say I'm not jealous of some of it. If I had the room, maybe, but that's never going to happen. Why not? Let's throw in one more where we're not talking about gaming. Although gaming does take up a big chunk of my spare time, especially when my free time is limited, since I do have a full-time job with a pretty lengthy commute, and somehow I squeeze in making the odd video here and there. I still have a few other little hobbies, so what else do I get up to? Every day I do a few JavaScript and Japanese lessons. No, I won't be trying to say anything here. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to both of these, but I have to fit these in the morning before work while I'm still awake, otherwise none of it sticks. I've been studying Japanese for a few years, but I still couldn't hold a minute-long conversation without constantly looking up basic words. And the programming? It might as well just be a write-off. My brain isn't built for learning. I swear. You can probably tell this by the fact my video editing skills haven't improved much over the years, even though I've been using video editing software for over a decade. I also dabble in the bass guitar. I wouldn't call myself a bassist though, just the same way as I wouldn't call myself a YouTuber. Because while I can play along with tracks using computer programs pretty accurately, just hand me the instrument with no direction and I'll just stare at it blankly. I did used to paint Warhammer models, but that just got way too pricey. My paints have dried up now though, and I can't justify spending the money to replace them. I also like doing the odd bit of Lego. Well, not the official kind, I'm a bit too cheap for that. I mostly build the knockoff nano blocks with the ridiculously tiny pieces, usually because they're gaming related. If you've seen much of my content, you'll also know I enjoy the odd beer. I try to go to beer festivals with friends, or at least get to the pub with them, or drinks on the beach, whenever I can, weather permitting of course. This is the UK. Working weekends really puts a damper on this though. Other than that, I try to spend as much time as possible with the girlfriend and my dog, usually going for coastal walks, or just watching cheesy horror movies. Just realised this sounds like it's almost turning into a dating profile. No one needed to know that much about me. So basically yeah, I'm just a big nerd who doesn't do a great deal. This one's easy. The answer is yes. I know this isn't the kind of video I usually put out, and I can't imagine many people sitting through to the end or even sticking around subscribed, but if you have, it means the world to me that anyone has taken the time to listen to my ramblings, even if it's on such a boring topic as this. Don't worry, this is a one-off video. My usual content will be back next time. Some of this might have come off as a bit of a downer, but trust me, I just really like self-deprecating humour. I am British after all. All we do is get drunk and be miserable. Again, thank you to anyone who's stuck around, and thank you to everyone who watches the channel. I'll still never understand why anyone would, but I do really appreciate it. Now, enough listening to me. Go play some bloody games. Have fun, people. Bye.